In 1860, the noted author and philosopher Samuel Butler wandered into the Canterbury backcountry searching for unoccupied land, which he did indeed find and claimed as the Mesopotamia Station, the land between two rivers, Forest Creek and Rangitata rivers. It was nearly 40,400 hectares of river flats, downs and high alpine mountains. He farmed the land for 2 years while he gathered background for his satirical novel, Erewhon. He built the first homestead, a one-roomed sod hut, explored some of the mountain ranges and passes, some of which bear his name, and mitigated the worst of his solitude hours by playing classical music on his grand piano. In about 1863, he sold the property, doubled his capital, returned to England and continued his writing. Apart from ownership, the property changed little over the next 80 to 90 years or so, and became quite well known as one of the largest South Island high country runs of the 20th century. It epitomised an era now fading into history of merino sheep, heading dogs, pack horses, mustering huts, shearing gangs and station cooks, of harsh winters, isolation and a male-dominated community. However, the latter half of the 20th century saw rapid change as land development ushered in a more intensive farming system and later diversification away from fine merino wool production to fat lambs, cattle, deer, forestry and safari hunting. These physical changes encouraged land tenure change, which resulted in the free holding of some 4,000 hectares of good land and its subsequent subdivision into 2 standalone properties. The Tui is one of the standalone properties, while the remaining 26,000 hectares, with the main homestead and school buildings, stayed as Crown pastoral lease. A government review in this century has returned approximately 20,000 hectares of that pastoral lease to Crown occupation and has allowed the free holding of the balance, approximately 6,000 hectares. The Rangitata Valley is separated from the Canterbury Plains by a low range of foothills, where the mile-wide braided riverbed channels into a several-kilometre-long gorge. At the other end, the valley rises to the main dividing range, the Main Divide, of 7,000 to 8,000 feet above sea level, where 2 great icefields lie, the Garden of Eden and the Garden of Allah. The Havelock, Clyde and Lawrence rivers drain off the Main Divide glaciers and snowfields to a point where they converge and become the Rangitata River. These 3 rivers and their tributaries are favoured hunting grounds for stalkers of red deer, Himalayan tahr and chamois. The mountains adjacent are a playground for serious mountaineers and experienced trampers. The pristine grandeur of the valley attracted Peter Jackson when searching for Lord of the Rings locations. He chose the site of Edoras and the backdrop for the battlements of Helm Steep from the upper reaches of the Rangitata River. It is also an area much favoured by several well-known New Zealand and international landscape artists and photographers. Mesopotamia and nearby Ben McLeod, Rata Peaks and Stew Point stations all operate commercial safari hunting operations on rugged land they occupy, using the wild animal resource as well as some farmed ones. The wide braided riverbed plays host to salmon and trout anglers, jet boaters and four-wheel drive enthusiasts, while at the same time being protected by a government water conservation order. Sited in the middle of all this beauty is the 1,325 hectares Tui property. Don and Helen Prouting have owned and operated the Tui since 1982, developing the farm from several large tussock blocks without buildings or infrastructure into the fully operational unit that it is today. Daughter Mel has been managing the property, which now farms 4,000 Perendale ewes and replacements, 500 breeding hinds and replacements, plus 100 cows and their necessary replacements. A total of 7,000 stock units on 1,324 hectares. The stock are mainly kept on 500 hectares of arable grassland. The remaining 800 odd hectares consists of undeveloped tussock land. Perhaps half of this undeveloped land is arable, and the rest suited for oversowing and top dressing. The ewes produce 110% of lambs or better, and lambs kill out at a carcass weight of between 15 and 18 kilograms. The deer are used to produce 14-month-old animals for fattening down country, and the cows produce 6-month-old weaners for the local calf sales. Topographically, the Tui consists of 400 hectares or more of river flats, with 4 kilometres of river frontage, over which it holds water rights to the centre line of the river. Most of the remaining 900 hectares is rolling or terraced grassland, dissected with creeks and gullies. These creeks, and those on the flats, provide most of the stock water. Homestead water is gravity-fed from a natural spring. The Tui is near the end of a long gravel road, 45 kilometres from the village of Peel Forest, where there is a general store and a small community. Mail and groceries are delivered 5 days a week from the Peel Forest store. The main shopping centres of Timaru and Ashburton are within 2 hours' drive. The property is serviced by Trustpower Ashburton. There is a landline phone service, but there is no cell phone coverage. Buildings on the Tui are all recent. The homestead of 269 square metres is a 4-bedroom wooden building, well insulated against the winter cold. There is also an Oamaru stone manager's cottage of 4 bedrooms built in 1986. Also, a 4-stand raised board shearing shed, workshop and implement shed, and a large hay barn and a sleep out next to the homestead. Outstanding growth rates for Douglas fir plantations are a characteristic of the New Zealand high country, where rainfall exceeds about 800mm as it does on the Tui. In the 80s, the Tui embarked on an ambitious forestry endeavour to plant around 600 hectares in Douglas fir pines. However, some time after establishment, the 700-hectare forestry block was sold, reducing the Tui to its current 1,300 hectares. Climate in the valley is characterised by hot, dry nor'west winds in the summer, occasional snowfalls in the winter, and annual rainfall of between 700 and 800mm. Humidity is low and winter rainfall low, characterised by many crisp, clear, sunny days. Southerly storms are mitigated by the 2,800 metre high Ben McLeod Range lying broadside to these storms. Another feature is the deep stream and tributaries that meander through the property. Some 6 kilometres with the main stream, a well-known salmon spawning area, also with a population of both brown and rainbow trout. Fly fishing is popular in this high-quality stream. It is unusual to find a freehold property such as the Tui in the New Zealand high country. Most are Crown leasehold with restrictions on stock carrying and land improvement. Quiet enjoyment away from the maddening crowd amidst some of New Zealand's most beautiful mountain scenery makes the Tui a jewel that cannot be ignored.